Welcome to this special edition of the Air Force Gradcast, a production of the Long Blue Line Podcast Network, presented by the U.S. Air Force Academy Association and Foundation in partnership with the Colorado Springs Airport. I'm your host, Vince Greco. In my previous career, I was a sportscaster right here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. So anytime I get the opportunity to sit down and talk to a brilliant football coach, I am all in. Back on September 2nd, 2025, I had the opportunity to sit down with Air Force Head Coach Troy Calhoun. Here's our conversation. Our guest today really does not need any kind of introduction. He's a 1989 graduate of the United States Air Force Academy, a member of Cadet Squadron 34, played on our football team, and a fun fact to start out with, Coach Calhoun, you were just one of two freshmen who lettered on that 1985 team that finished with a 12-1 record. First of all, sir, thanks for being here today. It's a great pleasure to have you.
Well, Vince, what a great honor. The fabulous work that the foundation does for the Air Force Academy and the vision to help the institution moving forward, too.
Well, we appreciate those kind words. A question that I like to start off with when I'm out on the road. So I travel and I try and raise money for the Academy, football program, athletics, whatever might need help here. But when I'm out on the road, I'll ask a grad, what drew you to come to the Academy? So you graduated here in 89. I'm assuming that in 84, 85, you're a senior in high school in the state of Oregon. We're about the same age. There were no real cell phones or computers to speak of. What drew you to the Academy?
Yeah, Vince, that means you're probably 24, 25 years old.
Exactly,
the same
Coach.
Age. I think, honestly, it was football initially is what captured my attention. Had a phone call from an assistant coach at that time named Jim Grobe, and he got me all fired up about the Air Force Falcons. Well, lo and behold, my mom talked to him a few minutes prior to handing the phone over, and she decided the next morning, she was an emergency room RN.
Wow, okay.
And went into the ER room, and there were a couple of docs that were in the reserves. She said, there's this place called the Air Force Academy that called Troy last night. I would really like for him to go to school and earn an education and go to college.
Right.
Do you guys know anything about this? And one of the docs told her, Joan, if he has an opportunity to go to the Air Force Academy, you have to make him do it. And she took it literally. So
Sure.
I tell her to this day, there aren't very many parents that make their son or daughter,
Right.
where they must go to school, but it turned out all right. So usually moms, as they often do, they know best.
Yeah, no doubt about that. What a great story. And we're all thankful for your mom and that decision-making. Well, as a head football coach, or a coach of any caliber, I think it's been wonderful and probably good for you. Because when I look at coaches around the country, and some of my friends back when I was a sportscaster were coaches, and they've moved 10 times, 15 times. You've not had to do that. You've had the luxury of coaching at the University of Ohio, Wake Forest, in the NFL, the Denver Broncos and the Houston Texans, and of course at the Air Force Academy. Do you find that has been something that has helped you evolve as a coach? I mean, you get to stay in one place. You raise your family in one place.
Yeah. Vince, I think Amanda probably wondered initially. We got married in March of 2000. And in December of 2000, 9 months later, we moved from Ohio to North Carolina. Just over 2 years later, we moved from North Carolina to Denver.
Right.
3 years later, we moved from Denver to Houston. I think initially she thought, what in the world are we doing here? And just 10 months in Houston, all of a sudden we were moving back to Colorado Springs. And there's no doubt we've been incredibly fortunate. I think more than anything else, what gets into your heart and your bloodstream, especially that you've been here a while, is the recall that there is of being able to go into a home of a young person who's 17 years old and really is not overly informed about the Air Force Academy.
Right.
But then 10 years later or 15 years later, to see it come full circle when they're flying an F-16 or an F-35, or they're going to med school, or they're in special ops, or They're back here at the academy as an instructor. They're a great dad, a wonderful husband. At this point, you realize the big picture in terms of what's involved.
What did it mean to you to be the first Academy grad to ever be the head coach here at the Air Force Academy?
I've never thought of it in that way. I think truly you come in each morning. I can't believe how fired up you are. And as the years go by, you're even more juiced. You have even more enthusiasm to get in there. This morning, I was like, goodness, we get to do this? And so that, to answer your question, that's not something that really has ever crossed my mind. You just, you realize how important this school is to our country. The investment that we're making as a nation and to our young men and young women who are cadets here at the United States Air Force Academy, and ultimately the way they serve on active duty. Certainly beyond active duty, though, too, and the great things they do in our communities and the way they impact future generations also.
Well, that's a good transition into my next question, because we're talking a little bit about the football program, but you're talking about the bigger picture, these cadets and what they do when they leave here. But I do think you, as a football coach, can be a mentor to a lot of them as well. And I say this from experience. My daughter is a 2017 grad. She played on our women's soccer team. And I definitely remember a story of her coming home one day or talking to her. They're loading the bus. I think it was up by Falcon Stadium, and they're going up to play CSU or Wyoming. And you like to work out, you jog, you're in the weight room, and you stop. You stop in front of that group. And this is from my daughter. This is not Vince speaking. And you took some time to tell them that, to wish them luck, to remind them who they play for and who the best program is in the Mountain West. And she remembers that. That's very impressionable. So it's not just about, I think, in my mind, your football players, it's the university in general.
Well, the admiration and the respect that you have for each person. First of all, to even choose the United States Air Force Academy. I think especially in this day and age, you're better informed than ever for whether it's going through basic training, getting a really good haircut on day one, or, the first 40 days that you're here, survival training after your freshman year. And you think of the aptitude, in terms of the caliber of young people that we are bringing here when they're 18, 19 years old, it's higher than ever.
Oh, yeah.
And so there has to be something that's really, really impressive in their soul, in their heart, to be able to choose the United States Air Force Academy, where most of them could go to nearly any place they wanted to throughout the country, but they want to serve. They want to be leaders. They want to embrace a school where there are standards, where it's about how you treat people, truly what respect's all about, and character. That's pretty darn neat.
Sure is. Kind of gives me goosebumps.
I know, right? It never stops.
Well, and I think that the impression that this school not just makes on the employees of the school, the coaching staff, but the residents in the community. In my early years, the early 90s to around 2005, I sat on the anchor desk at KRDO TV in Colorado Springs as a sports director, and we did the Coach DeBerry Coaches Show. And so I would spend probably, a half hour twice a week in his office after practice, watching him eat his peanut butter, mayonnaise, and banana sandwich, which kind of makes my stomach turn just thinking about that. But a lot of those times he didn't want to talk about football. He wanted to talk about the dining staff at Mitchell Hall and how important they are to the cadet wing, or the dean, or the aero department, astro department. And that's what I think really made an impression on me. If I could come work for the foundation, and I'm not a grad, I did not walk in your shoes, Coach, but if I could make that difference by helping raise money for Falcon Stadium, or the Madera Center for Cyber Innovation, or the Martinson Honors Program, I can make a difference. So that football program, and you were part of it, was very impressionable on me. So we talk about making impressions. You're supposed to be doing the talking, and I'm doing all the talking right now. But I want you to take a look at this video that we've got coming up. Brian German, who you know well over at Falcon Vision, they do an excellent job over there. I do not know where he found this, but I thought it was appropriate to play today for you to bring back some memories and maybe some impressions. Ready?
Yes, sir.
Watch this screen over here.
This is what football's all about. You got a chance, you get in there, by guys should do a better job than the man did ahead of you. I'm gonna tell you right now, man, to be a ranked football team, you gotta rise to the occasion every week. Every week, you gotta rise to the occasion. That just goes with the territory. If there is any adversity in that ball game, you just remember this. Champions bounce back from adversity. Champions bounce back from adversity. Bye, guys, get out there, have a lot of fun, not some slobber knockers around there. Hey, when you come back in, you'll be able to look yourself in the mirror and say, I did everything for my team that I could possibly do. Let's go get them, bro.
Now, you can thank Brian Sherman and his crew for that, but who was that handsome number 9 in that video there?
Yeah, that, like I said, I think that was only 2 or 3 years ago, right?
I couldn't agree with you more.
I've never seen that video, to be frank, so...
we aim to please here.
Well, I guess so. Tremendous work.
2 questions out of that video. One, Coach DeBerry could be impressionable. Did he have any effect on you or wanting to even be a coach?
You know, the enthusiasm that he had for the United States Air Force Academy and how much he believed in the mission,
right?
Absolutely, resoundingly so. I think the other part too was the mentorship from so many of the assistant coaches during those years. Right. Really, really formative in an incredibly positive way,
Sure.
And then certainly the teammates, the people you're alongside, and to see how many of them went on to become, whether they're colonels or generals,
Right.
or do exceptional work in corporate America, which we need a few of them that also served in the faculty.
Absolutely.
And how fabulous that is. And yeah, those are great memories.
And I'm going to butcher this, but have you ever incorporated, let's go out and knock some slobber knockers? What the heck is a I don't even know if I said it right, but what is it?
Vince, I think there's only one person that could describe, and we used to tease Coach a little bit. We didn't while we were playing, but you know what? Sometimes we can't understand what he's saying, but we absolutely knew what he meant.
That's a great way to describe it. Well, I'll thank Brian later for that, and we'll get you a clip. You probably should want to take that home and show it to your kids or Amanda.
I do.
All right.
My kids, my daughter teases me all the time and says, Dad, you didn't give me a 4 head. You gave me an 8 or a 9 head. I want to show her that wasn't always the case.
No,
so
you got a full head of hair there. Well, a lot of times when we're watching your team on television, like, I don't care what game it is, whether it's Bucknell or Army or Navy, they're going to put up on the screen a day in the life of a cadet. And it's pretty rigorous. Football is only it's a big part of it, but at the end of the day, it's a small part of what these cadets go through. I think our audience is pretty versed on what the cadets go through. I want to know, what is it like in a day in the life of head coach Troy Calhoun? What time do you get up?
Yeah, Vince, great question. I mean, this morning I got up at 4:45.
Yikes.
I'm pretty adamant about there are no 5s, and what that means is there are no just 5 days in a week where you are physically active, where you worked out. It needs to be a 6 or a 7 each week, and we need to have 50 weeks that way, that way each year. So get up either on the treadmill or on the elliptical or on a Peloton. Like to lift a little bit, how healthy that is too, and that way, no matter what happens during the day, there's nothing that pops in the way of at least knowing you're able to knock out something physical.
Right.
I think the other part, it allows you at times to be a little bit creative, maybe things that you want to do a little bit differently, which is a must. The other part, just to kind of plan out the day, or sometimes maybe there's a game replay and you decide to flip that on, and it's amazing how many game situations you see from any college or NFL game.
Right.
You say, you know what, I want to pull those 2 clips and show our team,
Gotcha.
because this could happen.
Right.
And you want to make sure they're really, really well prepared for about any contingency that could occur.
It's quite, and do you ever take time for yourself? Do you read a book? Do you you and your wife go on vacation in the off season?
I do love to read. Try to devour as much as I can. It's almost always nonfiction. A good bit of history, could be a good bit of just leadership approach, or really just the character development, being able to gain even more perspectives from other human beings to answer your question, Amanda and I will try to take a little bit of a break in the summer.
Sure.
We've been fortunate in recent years. Back in would have been 2022, we went to Normandy and the west coast of France just to take in what really happened back on June 6, 1944, and trying to devour at least those initial few months, what it was like going through the hedgerows and all that when it started after D-Day. We went last year in 2024 and did we went through Germany. Wow. And we tried to soak in as much Cold War, World War II.
Right.
I mean, it was just beyond magnificent.
Wow. That makes me feel better. I'm glad that there is life outside of football. And speaking of that, and this is kind of a loaded question, so you're going to have to be careful how you answer this, but I would imagine that being the head coach at the United States Air Force Academy for as long as you've been here, it has to be the easiest job in all of America, because after every game, every practice, you've got hundreds of people telling you how to do your job.
We never take it personal. I think more than anything else, just the indicators that people care.
Right.
And especially when it comes as long, and so often it usually is, the spirit is such for what they want to do. They want to support our cadets at the Air Force Academy.
No doubt. Do you envision any scenario where this is tough, you don't have to answer it if you don't want to, any scenario where you don't finish your career at the academy? You maybe go back to the NFL or up the street to the Broncos or whomever.
Yeah, you never have a crystal ball, right?
Right.
Nobody has that. I know we find tremendous joy and rewards in what we're doing. And so much of it is, I think, being able to look beyond football, although we want to play really, really competitive football. But the interactions, the professional relationships that you have, and being able to mentor and hopefully help others. I know there are times where that's hard because as a cadet, you're also competitive, and there are only 11 that are on the field.
Absolutely.
Yet the growth that hopefully they make while they're a part of your program, and hopefully that helps them later in life.
Is it becoming more difficult as we wrap up our time today? Is it becoming more difficult? You've seen coaches like Nick Saban step away, and maybe it was just time, or also the landscape of this game and this college athletics is changing so drastically with the transfer portal. You and I both know that's a one-way portal at the Air Force Academy, and they're leaving and they're not coming in. Or the NIL money. We, a few weeks ago, watched Notre Dame and Miami has a new $1 million quarterback. Did you ever think we'd be sitting here talking about these millions of dollars that college football players are making today?
Well, I didn't, yet at the same time, being able to evolve and adapt is a must, no matter how you live or where you work. The other part is, I do think an awful lot of revenue is generated by these players. Mm-hmm. And principally, we do go to the United States Air Force Academy. Yes, we serve for American values. And a part of those are to be reciprocated for the value that you have as a human being. And so the market's got to drive what that amount is. And I respect that.
I get it. Is it tougher to recruit in today's world?
Oh, absolutely.
And you're not alone. I mean, the other service academies are in the same boat. And so there's probably CSU or Wyoming, et cetera.
No doubt about it. You know, just from the standpoint, you're going to be asked in each home.
Right.
And we want to go into homes where you have talented football players that are really competitive, but they have those attributes that will be extremely helpful once they go to active duty. You know, the intangibles when it comes to work ethic and toughness and teamwork and unselfishness and just the grit and the sense of persistence that they have that's contagious, that rubs off on other people. And but the question or questions, especially when it's related to NIL, absolutely, they come right to the forefront.
Well, Coach, you have been so gracious with your time today. You're not probably getting a lot of rest, but keep up the great work, and thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Vince. And it's heartfelt, just the impact that the foundation has on the United States Air Force Academy and going forward, really to make our graduates and our community aware of how important it is, you know, for us to be able to be at the forefront in terms of a world-class institution. Development is a huge, huge component of this.
Thank you for those kind words. Good luck the rest of the year. This has been a special presentation of the Air Force Gradcast. Listen to this and all editions of Air Force Gradcast at usafa.org/Air Force Gradcast. That's usafa.org/Air Force Gradcast, or wherever you get your favorite podcast. On behalf of the Long Blue Line Podcast Network and the Air Force Academy Association and Foundation, thank you for joining us. I'm Vince Greco. Until next time, we'll see you on the Gradcast.
Bye, guys. Get out there. Have a lot of fun. Not some snobber knockers around there. Hey, you